You have an interesting story behind Asia Physio.
We had heard from a friend, current physiotherapist servicing the expats was leaving. We had to open quickly because we didn't have much money. So we started shopping around for the treatment tables and...
How you were able to start in just 2 months?
In our industry, we don't have some exit or some big launch. More and more foreigners coming to Japan for a ski holiday. Skiing, is a little bit risky, so people do tend to get injured.
People started visiting Japan for skiing.
That's been a really big boom for Japan and for Japanese economy.
You realize that you should expand your network now.
You'd speak to your patients in the ski resorts and they would say, well, I've been to Niseko, decided to open our second clinic in Niseko.
When did you expand your network in Singapore?
Tokyo was probably losing out in the expat market, and we stopped treating patients in Tokyo in about 2010. If you want to expand, then you end up with a lot of staff members. We don't have any revenue in those clinics for 9 months of the year. We opened in Singapore in 2013.
What kind of challenges did you face in Singapore?
When we opened, the Singapore government actually changed the laws on registration for physios, where if you're a new physiotherapist, you had to become supervised by someone who is an existing physiotherapist for a year.
You qualified for Ironman Qualifier at Hawaii twice.
Correct. My wife did 3 times actually.
So what's the story behind it?
I always played a lot of soccer and rugby as a child, and you need that resilience, I think, to keep going when things get dark. And it's similar to 30 kilometers into an Ironman marathon. You still got 10 kilometers to go. It's a long way and you're totally exhausted.
You had 2 different challenges.
About a week after I arrived in Singapore, actually, I was racing Olympic distance triathlon in Bintan. I was actually winning the race overall, but I passed out with heat stroke with about 500 meters to go, having to spend a week in hospital.
60% of Asia Pacific's working population is going through chronic stress. Are you interested to tap this industry? What's your take on AI integration into physiotherapy industry? What are those 3 tips from you, like mentally to become an athlete and maintain your physical health? Hello and welcome to Unicorn Talks. Some founders wait for perfect clarity before they make a move. They want the data, timeline, the certainty, and only then they commit. They start with the business. But then there are some exceptional founders, like today's guest, who create momentum first and clarity shows up later. We are talking about Bevan Colless, the founder and owner of Asia Physio. He literally shipped a full container of physio beds and equipment from Australia to Japan before he had a lease, before there was an address which was registered over there. And it was like saying, we are already in motion and now the world has to catch up. That level of conviction eventually turned into Asia Physio, one of the most respected physiotherapy networks in Japan and Singapore, with over 100 plus team members at multiple clinics. So it's the leadership mindset behind it. And here we bring you Bevan Colless. Bevan, welcome to Unicorn Talks. It's great to have you on this show.
Thank you for inviting me on. Good to be chatting with you.
Yeah, great. So let's start with the basics. You have an interesting story behind Asia Physio. So we read the story, but I would like to hear from you how it all started and what was the mindset behind it, the container story.
Well, I don't know that we really went in with a grand plan or anything. We basically, there was an opportunity in Tokyo where I'd already lived there doing a bunch of part-time jobs a couple of years earlier. So we had heard from a friend who was living there that the current physiotherapist servicing the expats was leaving. She was an expat wife and she was operating from her husband's apartment, and her husband got moved. So my friends called me up and said, look, there's no one doing physio for the foreigners in Tokyo now. There's an opportunity for you. And then so we started shopping around for the treatment tables, and we didn't really know how to buy any of that stuff in Japan or if we could get the same level of quality or the materials that we were familiar with. So we went, bought it all, and it's obviously too big to send by air. So we sent it out by a container and then showed up and had to hurry up and find somewhere to put them, the equipment in and to open the business.
That's it. You just had a mind that we have an opportunity and we should grab it. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really seem risky at the time because, we had to open quickly because we didn't have much money, and we couldn't kind of just hang around in Tokyo without operating. So my mindset was we have to open as soon as possible. And I guess you need a little bit of that eternal optimist in you to make a decision like that. And I just thought, yeah, I'm sure we'll find something. We know a lot of people. I'd lived in Japan already for a couple of years. We'll get a spot. So, and it turned out we did pretty quickly.
And how long did it take to set up your base there?
I think we arrived in Japan in February, and our first day, I believe, was in April. So I guess it was about 2 months after we arrived.
In just 2 months, you set up your base operations in Japan.
Yep, correct. That was in 2002, so long time ago now.
That's an interesting thing. You found a gap and you just grabbed it. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs and startup founders who just work on the idea for a longer period, and they eventually start. Somehow they get the funding, and after a specific time, they just close their shutter. So how you were able to start in just 2 months, and you have sustained a lot of things, and you have been in the industry for more than 2 decades now. So how was that journey?
Yeah, I guess in our industry, we don't have some big exit or some big launch, really, where we're launching some big tech product, and we didn't want to get shareholders and raise money. I guess in other sectors, people pitch an idea and get money from investors and build it for a while, and they could be pre-revenue for a long time, but have that money for investors to sustain them. Whereas we didn't have that. It was all our own money. I got a small loan from my parents to get us going, but we wanted to retain 100% equity, and we had to be operating to pay the rent. So we did that in 2002, and then after 3 or 4 years, the skiing in Japan in business or interest started to really rise. I used to love skiing and snowboarding myself, as does my wife. So we started to see more and more foreigners coming to Japan for a ski holiday. That was kind of quite surprising at the time, because back then not many people were going to Japan for holidays. Our patients, we weren't aiming to target that sector. We were mostly focused on bankers and lawyers and the expat market in Tokyo.
Okay.
So, but when we started to see all the foreigners there, then we decided to open our second clinic in Niseko in Hokkaido. That's Hop Island of Japan, which is a ski resort. So then we kind of pivoted into the ski injury section, I guess.
Well, that's quite surprising and new for me. Like people started visiting Japan for skiing. Like foreign tourists were attracted towards Japan's ski industry.
Yeah, so that's been a really big boom for Japan and for the Japanese economy.
Yeah.
Well, one is inbound tourism, and a lot of people were just coming to Japan for holidays, whereas back in the early 2000s and the 90s, not very few people were having a holiday in Japan. A lot of people would come to work or for a working holiday, but not many people would go for a holiday. So The skiing was probably the first lot of people who started to come to Japan for ski holidays. And then I think the word got out that, Japan's super interesting, became cheaper, it wasn't as expensive as in the 90s and early 2000s, and people realized that they could do it without the language ability. So more and more people started to come to Japan for holidays. And for us, skiing, is a little bit risky. So people do tend to get injured. And I guess when it comes down to it, our market is injured foreigners in Japan, non-Japanese speakers who are in Japan who need healthcare is our patient profile. So that was a lot of them in the ski resorts.
As you mentioned that foreign tourists used to get injured a lot during the initial phase. So what kind of injuries were the major ones? And how do you address those in those initial days, and how it is going at the moment?
Skiing from a physiotherapy perspective is kind of a really good sport from a purely business point of view. We don't wish it upon anyone to get injured. And the injury rates are not super high as far as the number of ski days. I think it's only one in 1,000 ski days that people get injured.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people on the mountain. And they tend to get a lot of knee injuries, which, because the ski is attached to the boot, which is solid, if you catch an edge and the ski doesn't release, according to the laws of physics, that rotational torsional force ends up at the knee, and it very commonly injures ACLs and MCLs. And those types of injuries, for us, they're really good because they don't necessarily need an MRI or a trip to the hospital. Some of them do, if they can't walk or they're non-weight bearing or we suspect a fracture. But probably 95% of them are what we call soft tissue injuries. So they're things that physiotherapists can handle without needing, there's no fracture. They don't necessarily need to rush for a X-ray or rush to the hospital. So most of those types of injuries, we do a really good job.
After getting a success in ski injury department, when was the time that you realized that you should expand your network now?
Well, the first year was in 2005-06 winter in Niseko, that it was just me and my dog went up there for the winter, and my wife stayed in Tokyo. So I think we did that the first 2 winters, and it just started to get a little bit old to have, be apart from my wife for 3-4 months every year. So then my wife came up to Niseko for a couple of years, and that kind of moved us away from treating patients in Tokyo. And you'd speak to your patients in the ski resorts and they would say, well, I've been to Niseko once or twice and now I want to go to another ski resort. So this time we're doing 1 week in Niseko and 1 week in Hakuba. And so we started to become more aware that the foreigners weren't just going to the one ski resort, started to be aware that, the foreigners there were having the times of their life. You could hear them in the supermarket and on the ski hill. Everybody was so happy, and you could just tell, wow, these guests are really enjoying this product of ski holidays in Japan. And you could just see that they were going to go home and tell all their friends. So I guess at the same time, Tokyo was probably losing out in the expat market to Singapore and Hong Kong. A lot of our patients in Tokyo who were working for the big investment banks, particularly after the GFC in 2008, they were moving their whole desks to Singapore and Hong Kong. So you could kind of see the writing on the wall that Japan as an expat market was probably on the decline, but Japan as a tourist destination had legs. And we sort of took our chips, took them away from a little bit of the servicing the expats and put a few more bets on servicing tourists to Japan. So then we opened over the next 5 years, 7 years, another 4 clinics in the different ski resorts of Japan.
Okay. When did you expand your network in Singapore?
So we opened in Singapore in 2013. And as I mentioned, we stopped kind of treating patients in Tokyo in about 2010. A few years there, we were living in Niseko year round, but there's not much work for us in summer. So we pretty much got obsessed with triathlon and sports during that time, and would got right into doing long distance triathlons and in endurance sports. But we were only working about 3 months of the year, and for 9 months of the year, we were just kind of living this wannabe pro triathlete lifestyle almost. So after a few years of that, we sort of thought, well, maybe now every second patient in Tokyo is moving to Singapore. Maybe we should move to Singapore. And we didn't pack up a container this time because we had more faith we could buy the things in Singapore, and moved to Singapore in at the end of the winter in 2013. So that was about April 2013. We moved there.
What kind of challenges did you face when you started your operations in Singapore?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. Well, actually, from when we decided to set up the operations to when we opened, the Singapore government actually changed the laws on registration for physios. Before 2013, there was no requirement to be registered as a physio. So they brought that in, and then, so for us, we then had to they brought in a supervision model where if you're a new physiotherapist, you had to become supervised by someone who is an existing physiotherapist for a year. So we kind of had to find someone to supervise us for that year, so which we didn't plan on. So we luckily, through our network of ex-patients in Tokyo and just the expat kind of grapevine, we found someone who we employed him as a physiotherapist, but then he also in return was a supervisor for us. So he and that allowed us to get registered in Singapore and to get us open. So we had a couple of moments there where we were like, oh, if we can't find this guy, we're not going to be able to open. But luckily, we found him, and that all worked. And then, I guess then you have to get a visa, employment pass, and also have to get a lease on a property. So there's all those challenges as well. We're a little bit better resourced there after being in Japan for 10 years. So we had a little bit more money behind us, but you still got that time pressure where you're leaking money every day you're there and not operating.
That's one of the key challenge in every country, because you never know government, how they think, what they think, and when they'll just replace the existing rules and challenge you as an entrepreneur, right?
Yes, for sure.
Well, that's a big challenge, and the biggest challenge is like you are dealing in one country, and when you switch to another country, you expect it goes smooth, and all of a sudden it just hits you with a challenge, and you are like, oh, what should I do now? But there's the thing, there's the leadership instinct which triggers in, and it just handles everything. And that is how you dealt with it when you entered the Singapore market, right?
Correct. I guess we're all at the behest of the government, particularly, I'm an Australian citizen. I don't have any national. I'm not Japanese, obviously, not Singapore. So I'm operating in countries that I'm a guest in. So we are at the behest of the governments of those countries. But to be fair, I think the Japanese government has always been very good to me, and same with the Singapore government. I mean, we're now permanent residents in Japan, but I think, they're both great countries, and we're really grateful for the freedoms we've had to be able to get to this stage in both countries.
Okay. And see, you have been this industry, like ski industry, and then now triathlon, and as you said, so it's all into sports, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, in physiotherapy, most of us
Uh,
who get into this career love sports.
mhm.
If we were really into just money, we'd probably be a banker or whatever, or a doctor.
Engineer.
So engineer, one of those things. So most people who get into physio love sports, and I've always loved sports, and my wife's loved sports, and you'll find most of our staff
Uh-huh.
love sports. That's why we get into this business. So,
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, not many physios end up seeing elite athletes, doing the running on the field to see the professional players. That probably is a bit of the carrot that draws a lot of people to physiotherapy, because they see that on the TV and think, oh, I want to be that guy, running on the field. But there's only a very small percentage of people that do that. But we still love sports, and we end up seeing sports injuries, and we do just tend to see more amateur, which, of course, there's 999 amateurs for every one professional. So it's a much bigger market, I guess, than trying to see professional athletes.
Like everyone as a child loves sports, and while we are watching Olympics or any other sports like volleyball, cricket, football, hockey, we just tend to believe that yes, we can be one of those players and achieve some great medals and have something better with our life. But it is not for everyone, because once you are injured, whether you are at any level of your career as a sports person, it just ruins your further plans, right? So,
Yeah.
so you as a physiotherapist, you have witnessed so many sports persons. So can you share any story where you saw an exceptional player, exceptional sports person, they went through an injury, but they recovered very well and they're back on track and they're growing well in their career as a sports person?
I don't know that I've got one particular story, but from a kind of a macro zoomed out view of the whole profession, that's what we love. It's awesome to have somebody who's going through a really hard time. And in our ski resorts, we're seeing it every day, 5-10 times a day. People are on a holiday they've been looking forward to all year, and they get injured, and it's a really hard time for them. And so for us to take care of those people, a lot of them are away, almost all of them are away from their home country, and they're been looking forward to this trip all year. They don't want to be a drag on their family. So people are coming to us in their time of need, and we take that responsibility of looking after those people really seriously. And I think we do a great job in looking after them. In the ski resorts, we don't get to see the full rehabilitation often, because they go home after a week or two.
Okay.
In our city clinics in Singapore and Tokyo and Okinawa, we do get to see that longer journey of getting back to full function.
Mm-hmm.
And for sure, it's awesome when they do get back to the playing field, and you get to share that whole journey with them. It's terrific. It's like I said, it's what we love, and it's keeps us all going, that sort of motivation.
Perfect. You see, I just have to ask this, like, as we are talking about the athletes, you have that athlete mentality, you have that sportsman mentality, and due to which you qualified for Ironman qualifier at Hawaii twice, right?
Yep, correct. My wife did 3 times, actually, yeah.
Wow, that's great. So what's the story behind it? Can you share?
Well, I always played a lot of soccer and rugby as a child, and into my 20s and 30s, actually.
Okay.
But, I guess it's always had that competitiveness in me, I think. And I think every entrepreneur has to have that, because it's sometimes throughout your journey, you're going to get some bad things happen, and you have to use that competitive mindset. I know a few times when your money's running really low, or you've got staff trouble, or whatever it is. Over, of course, the journey we've had a lot of ups and downs, and you need that resilience, I think, to keep going when things get dark. And it's similar to, when you're 30 kilometers into an Ironman marathon, you still got 10 kilometers to go. It's a long way and you're totally exhausted.
Yeah.
You need to have that little bit of grit in you and that competitiveness to keep pushing. I think that's probably always come kind of naturally to me, I guess. So I got into triathlon actually when I was playing in a soccer tournament in Phuket, and there was the Phuket triathlon the week after. So I ended up staying in Phuket for the week and just borrowing a friend's bike, and I did the Phuket triathlon, and I did it okay. I was always pretty naturally good at endurance sports, I guess, probably more so than sprinting or the real skills you need to play soccer at a high level. I never really had that. But I was, I always had a pretty good engine, so I naturally transferred into triathlon pretty well. And I was getting to that age in mid-30s where you're getting a little bit slow to play those explosive sports like soccer and rugby. So triathlon was kind of a natural for me to move into.
All right. And when was this when you qualified for the triathlon?
For the Hawaii Ironman, I qualified first time in 2013.
Okay.
It was actually the same year I moved to Singapore.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess I just spent 2 or 3 years before we moved here, training almost full time up in Niseko. So we were pretty fit while we were setting up the business and going through those government challenges we talked about. I was still training really hard and still really focused on trying to qualify for Hawaii. So I did that in Canada, in Whistler, in 2013.
Okay. It was in 2013, in the same year you started expansion in Singapore as well. Well, you had 2 different challenges, I guess.
Soon after, about a week after I arrived in Singapore, actually, I was racing in an Ironman, Olympic distance triathlon in Bintan, which was very close. And I was actually winning the race overall, but I passed out with heat stroke with about 500 meters to go. And ended up having to spend a week in hospital, being emergency evacuated back to Singapore. So yeah, that was definitely a turbulent year, that one in 2013.
So 2013 had a lot of things for you.
Yeah, a while ago now. But yeah, I mean, I tried really hard to qualify for Hawaii for a number of years. It was a big goal that almost became a monkey on my back that I just had to do, So I was so happy when I did it eventually. Yeah.
So we had a conversation of an athlete, like what Bevan the athlete thinks and how he has been dealing with his challenges. Now I want to know how, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, you deal with things, and what's your vision on current challenges and opportunities in the industry, in the physiotherapy industry?
Well, it's a hard industry because, we sell physiotherapy appointments when it comes down to it, which is a very labor-intensive industry. So if you want to expand, then you end up with a lot of staff members. I always think it's probably easier. You see some of these tech companies that have got revenue that's probably 100 times our revenue with the same or less staff members, So our challenges are often related to workforce management, and dealing with 100 staff, hiring, and now because of the seasonal nature of our business, we have to hire a lot of those people every year.
Okay.
And we have challenges with seasonal cash flow, I guess. We don't have any revenue in those clinics for 9 months of the year. Other ski businesses, whether it's ski hire or selling accommodation or ski lessons, you get deposits up front, so it helps your cash flow throughout the year. But for us and the food and beverage guys, most of us have just got to wait until people come and they start to eat and drink and get injured, and then we get income. So dealing with that seasonal cash flow is a constant stress.
Okay.
And luckily, we got more and more year-round businesses to help that. And then, as for the future of the industry, I think it's good. What we do is evidence-based. We really help people. It's been shown more and more that our treatments and our benefit value to the community is really high. So I don't think AI is ever going to be able to take away from what we do. And I don't think people are going to stop playing sports or getting back pain or neck pain. So I think we're in a reasonably recession-proof and future-proof industry. So I'm very positive about the future of our profession. And, maybe in the future there'll be a little bit more consolidation going on, which is already a trend in the US and in Australia, with some private equity coming into buying up a chain of physiotherapy clinics and consolidating them and reducing the costs. And so that hasn't happened yet in Asia, but perhaps it will in the future.
All right. And yes, I have to agree on this. Like, sports industry is a growing industry. It is never going to slow down. It might slow down sometimes, but not going to stop at all. Even during the COVID time, we had a pause. But after a certain period, like almost after 6 months, everything resumed. So no matter what, how we control our emotions, but sports is kind of an emotion where people cannot stop for a longer period.
For sure. And, we don't just see sports. We also see non-athletic people with pains and whatnot as well. So people are never going to stop, getting back pain or non-sporting related injuries. We see a lot of women's health. People keep getting pregnant and having babies and all those normal functions of life. So I think we're pretty assured of our future.
The work stress. See, there is a data which says 60% of Asia Pacific's working population is going through chronic stress. And it is not just about mental health. It is about their physical pain as well. As you mentioned, the back pain and the neck pain. Because there are a lot of professionals who are working from office or working from home, and they just skip their daily exercise and daily routine. Even they hardly follow the nutrition diet which they should. And eventually they have chronic back pain for a longer period, and they suffer a lot from that. So tell me, how are you planning to deal with this, and are you interested to tap this industry?
Yeah, I mean, you mean how do I deal with it on a personal level, or how do I help people with their own?
Initially, I want your answer from personal perspective, and then from an entrepreneur's perspective.
Yeah, well, from a personal perspective, I've always enjoyed regular exercise. If I spend a few days without doing any exercise, I don't feel great. Not to say that I never do. I have gone through periods where I haven't exercised for a month or something if I'm super busy.
All right.
But I 100% think it helps with your mental state and stress.
Okay.
But it is hard. I think if we're going through, particularly at those times of your life where you've got severe stress because whatever is happening is really weighing on you, it's 100% hard to motivate yourself to get out the door and exercise at those times. So I think for anyone who is going through that, I always think something's better than nothing, even if it's just going out the door for a 20-minute walk. From an entrepreneur point of view, from a business point of view, yeah, I mean, back pain and neck pain related to sitting and work from home was a big part of our business during COVID because everybody was working from dining room chairs and things, and they were getting a lot of back pain and neck pain. So that's always a big section of physiotherapy, looking after those people. And I guess what we've done that's a little bit interesting in that area in Singapore and also in Okinawa and to our bigger locations where we've got more therapists, we've become a little bit more specialized in our physiotherapy. So we have physiotherapists that just love seeing backs and necks. And so they end up seeing those patients all the time. And then we have physiotherapists that love seeing knees and shoulders and the more sporting injuries. So we have become a little bit more specialized in our clinics, our therapists and our equipment and whatnot. So in Singapore, we've got one clinic that's more sporting injury related, and then we've got another one called the Spine and Pelvis Clinic that's a bit more related for back pain and neck pain and postnatal.
Large corporations are hiring physiotherapists and agencies to make their employees, their staff healthy, right? So let's say large organizations have big funds, so they're able to hire them. But if there's a small organization, small and medium organizations, they very few are able to hire them. So let's say if we have the digital platforms and we have the experts who can just guide them or brief about their health. So will it be feasible for the physiotherapy industry as well as for the small and medium organizations to hire them and keep their staff healthier?
Yeah. So you're 100% right. I think big companies like Apple and Google are starting to hire physiotherapists on site. And so people have got access to those and they can make an appointment with those physiotherapists.
Right.
I think it's, that sort of level of opulence in your life, if you like, as far as availability of those services to their staff members. Uh-huh. A bit like these, cafes you see where people can go down and eat and drink and have their lunch provided for them every day. Uh-huh. I don't know that it's got a long future, to be honest. I think it's probably... although it's great that the companies try and look after their employees, it is only for a very, really profitable companies. And at the end of the day, they're still trying to maximize their profits. So they're kind of using that, I guess, to try and keep salaries down and dress up those extra benefits so they become a desirable place to work and even at a lower salary. So I feel like I don't know that that's really the future, just because there's very few companies that can afford to hire a physio. We certainly couldn't provide free on-care healthcare for all of our staff, sort of thing. So it just seems a little bit too opulent for me.
Okay. And what's your take on AI integration into physiotherapy industry? Because I've read the data that medical industry is accepting or integrating AI at a rapid pace after fintech industry. So how do you see AI integration into this?
I guess AI, when it comes down to it, it's about productivity. And for our industry, the first part was writing patient notes. It's always a pain for every physio. If you finish, you've got back-to-back patients. At the end of the day, you've got to write your notes, or you try and do it a little bit while the patient's with you, but you end up having to write up everything at the end of the day. So there is now AI notes where they can listen to you talking with the patient. It'll chop out the small talk and write your patient notes for you. So a lot of physiotherapists are using that. And then I guess it's just assisting you with communication. If you need to write a letter to a doctor or write a letter to anyone who's a patient's parents or family members, you can use AI to make that a little bit more efficient. So it's definitely helping with the productivity, which is great.
Okay, so all in all, AI is good. Initially, it is helping you with the monotonous work, and it is allowing you to take time for yourself as well as to treat patients well, rather than just investing your time in taking the notes and recording the stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to take away fully from having a consultation. I think I've seen some, robotic massage therapists they're trying to sell with a robot actually doing massage. But so maybe it might come in and take some of the massage therapist's work, but I can't see it ever being able to do a good physiotherapy consultation or patients seeing it as a viable alternative to a physiotherapy consultation. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, that was new for me. Like robots are providing massage, because that's some kind of human thing which machines are providing. So that's new, I guess.
Yeah, it's new. I guess the machine will, assess the patient's body and shape and size, and can see the contours of the body, and will do a massage related to that. So I guess initially when I saw that, I thought, that's not going to work, because people want the human touch, but some people don't like the human touch, so or feel awkward about that, getting a massage. So maybe that's got some future. I don't know that I'm ready to invest in one of those just yet, though.
All right. So, what's your tip for the audience, the viewers who are having a very normal life, and to become an athlete, like from mental perspective, like mentally to become an athlete and maintain your physical health? What are those 3 tips from you to just keep following and make it a habit and have a healthy life?
Trying to do something every day, whether if I think structured exercise is better, but if you can get sweaty every day, it helps everything. You sleep better, right. You tend to want to eat better, you're more productive. So the research behind evidence is prolonging your life and improving the quality of life is very convincing. There's no better modality in the world, no drug or anything that's going to provide you with the same benefits as exercise.
Okay.
As to what that exercise is, I think the most important is just that it's something you enjoy and that's available to you. And it's always good to have a little bit of a goal on the horizon too. It doesn't have to be a race, but maybe it's a goal weight or a holiday or something, just to keep you motivated when you don't want to do it. And yeah, as far as becoming an athlete, I think most athletes and most entrepreneurs had to. You got to, we say, a bit of mongrel in you. You got to have a little bit of a drive, and usually you've had to face a bit of adversity in your life, so to give you that drive to train super hard, So I think most athletes have got that inner drive to push themselves through pain and push themselves hard and to do things you don't want to do, And so I think that's really important for anyone who wants to be an athlete or an entrepreneur.
Okay, so I've been following this routine, like it's been almost a year now. I had a back pain a year ago because our job just keeps us sitting on a chair for more than 9 hours, and we just keep doing this regularly, so 5 days, 6 days in a week. So then I realized I was not having enough walk during the day. So I started walking, and it helped me to regain my posture, because as we deal with computers and screens, so I just had some back pain and even the neck pain, as you mentioned. We have back pain and neck pain a lot, even though we don't play sports. So I started walking. Later, I realized I should do some yoga exercise. So I did that. And apart from that, I wanted to join a gym as well, but the time didn't allow me. So I preferred having some small games like table tennis or something, which we can practice it at our home. So I did these three things, which helped me to regain my fitness and just help me cure with my back pain. So I guess that could help the audience as well.
For sure. I think something's always better than nothing when it comes to movement.
Right.
And with back pain, it has been shown that that just any sort of movement is better than lying in bed,
Right.
Or sitting in a chair for long periods. So you're generally better off continuing to try and move if you've got back pain, and continuing to move every day.
So movement is the key. Keep moving, do something. Don't just sit idly for a longer period, or else it will hamper your health in the longer run.
Definitely.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bevan, for your time and your valuable insights. You have an interesting story, which our audience will definitely get some knowledge and idea about how they have to deal and what kind of mindset do we have and how we should deal with the problems or the challenges we have in our life. Because it is not just about business or earning profits. It is about how you be as a person, because it's your mentality who shapes your life ahead. So it was great talking to you.
Thank you, man. I've enjoyed the chat.